Well, good day. Welcome to Your Vote, Your TV's extensive coverage of the 2022 municipal election. My name is Mark Johnston. I will be your moderator for the next hour and a half as Your TV presents to you the Port Hope mayoral candidates. In the Your TV studio, we have the four candidates who are vying for your vote to become the next mayor of Port Hope, Ontario, October the 24th. During the debate, the candidates will discuss, debate, and give their political platform on various topics and questions put together by Your TV staff and volunteers. The rules for the debate are as follows. Before we started taping, the candidates picked a number out of a hat for seating purposes and opening statements. Each candidate will be given up to 3 minutes for their opening statement, and we will then move into question and answer part of the debate. Each candidate will be given up to 2 minutes to answer each question. Once they have all answered the question, the floor will be open to a 3-minute open debate between the candidates. The order for answering questions by the candidates will always change throughout the debate. For example, the opening statements will go 1, 2, 3, and 4. The first question, then the order will be 2, 3, 4, and 1, and so on. Now that we've explained the rules of the debate, let's begin with the opening statements, and the candidate going first is Sitting Councilman Jeff Lees. Jeff, welcome to the debate.
Thank you, Mark.
We will start off with question number 1 and get us started for your opening statement, of course. You have this much time to give us your opening statement.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm Jeff Lees, and I'm running for the position of mayor in the municipality of Port Hope. I've got an extensive experience in municipality. I've been a councillor for 25 years. I've been in the past deputy mayor. I've been chair of every portfolio in Port Hope except for one. I've sat on many committees. I know the staff well. I know how staff works. I know how town hall works. And again, I think experience should count in many ways. We have to move forward. You know, I love this small community that we live in, but we also have to move forward every day. These are things that we have to look for because unlike other communities, we have a great mixture of rural and urban mixed together, and there's so many new and upcoming businesses coming in our community, and I'm very excited to be your representation on Port Hope Town Council. Thank you.
Very good, Jeff. Thank you very much. And of course, we move down the line here as number 2 was picked by Angela Grogan.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Angela Grogan, and I'm standing up as a mayoral candidate for my community. I have lived in Port Hope for a number of years, and I share the same dreams, disappointments, and love for Port Hope. We are a wonderful community of caring people, but somewhere along the line, we have become very stagnant and almost no production. I feel that I can be your mayor because I bring certain qualities that's needed in every leadership. Qualities of compassion, qualities of inclusiveness, experience. I've run 3 corporations, and I've come with a value of information from receptionist, librarian, realtor. So I've encompassed a lot of business experience that would be useful. The one thing I want to say, Port Hope has changed. We're now a diverse and multi-generational community, and we must look out for the rights of all. We need to have a review of the way we handle our resources and our various departments, and we must emphasize that our residents need respectful representation. We need to also look at our housing emergency and transportation. The time is now. And as mayor, I will be doing the now. The plans have already been put in place, and I'll be looking at recommendations. We have no more time to lose. We must encourage and recognize the talents of the many people who are now calling Port Hope home and make them feel accepted. We must control the use of our lands, and we must remind ourselves change cannot be stopped, and it is not binded to past experiences. It is binded to the future and the vision. I am your fresh eyes, and I'm asking you to select me as your mayor. Thank you.
Angela, thank you for your opening statement. We now move to Olena Hankivsky. Your turn.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm looking forward to be your next mayor of Port Hope because I believe first and foremost in public service. I want to serve this community, to plan and to build for the future with energy, intellect, passion, compassion, and steely determination. I'm not here representing any particular group or agenda. I am here to represent all of the people of Port Hope. And indeed, I have spent the last number of weeks canvassing 8 hours a day, door to door, walking and talking and meeting with folks across both wards, because everyone gets an equal vote and everyone has an equal voice. My experiences are multifaceted. I have the education, knowledge, and skills to understand how government works, how decisions are made, how policy is developed, how to sit at different tables, including with the provincial and federal governments. I've worked internationally. I know how to make evidence-informed and community-engaged decisions. I think that it's time for a new chapter of Port Hope politics. The status quo is not an option. We can't expect to do things in the same way and have the different outcomes. We need to ask, why do we do things this way? Where are we going? And what I have heard from the constituents of our municipality is it's time for something different. We deserve better. There is a distrust and a loss of faith in this municipality, the leadership, and we need to make changes across a number of critical issues. My vision for Port Hope is reflected in what I've heard from the people of Port Hope. A municipality that works for and with the community, a community that has a vibrant, resilient economy, an affordable place to live, a model for sustainable development and climate change, and an inclusive and caring community. Thank you.
Thank you, Olena, for that. We now move to Laurie Carr, a sitting council member, for your opening statement.
And thank you, Mark. My name is Laurie Carr. Port Hope needs a mayor who is totally invested in this community. I own 3 businesses here. I call that heavily invested. I have 20 years worth of volunteer work. I also call that heavily invested. Port Hope needs a mayor who understands how to get things done. I have 4 years on council, 4 years chairing finance, budget, and audit committees, 4 years serving on police and library boards, and 4 years listening, learning, and preparing to be your mayor. Port Hope needs a mayor who will hit the ground running. No sharp learning curve, no rookie mistakes, just first-hand knowledge of how to do this job. Port Hope needs a mayor who is ready now, ready for several turning point issues, ready to lead the community in a new official plan, ready to promote managed and balanced growth, and ready to stop the needless destruction of trees, and ready to fight for land use development that embraces our natural environment and downtown economy, our agricultural lands and resources, and significantly, our families who need housing they can afford. As your mayor, I am ready to lead a community asking for change and facing several major issues and decisions that will hit the pocketbook of every taxpayer. This is not a time for learning on the job. That will cost us. We need a fiscal plan, and I am ready for that too. It takes executive experience to make change work for people, and I am a proven CEO. A person doesn't wake up one day and decide she should be mayor. Asking for the trust and the power to manage your hard-earned tax dollars. You must prove yourself first, with integrity, with community ties, with a proven record of service and trust. I have met that test, and I thank you.
Thank you, Laurie Carr. Thank you all the candidates for sharing your opening statements. A great opportunity to hear where you're coming from and where you hope to go. We appreciate your insight and standing on your platform. At this point, we move into the question period of our debate. A reminder, we have 2 minutes for each candidate to share an answer to this question. And at the end of that 2 minutes for each candidate, we have a 3-minute period of open debate between all candidates. We'll be watching our time and again reminding you of where we are at. At this point, we move to Angela Grogan as our numbers have moved down the line here a little bit. And so for our first question, Angela, I'd like to ask you this. Curious about your vision for the municipality of Port Hope. And by your vision, we mean at the end of 4 years with you in the seat of mayor, looking back, what do you feel for you and the residents you would be able to hold up to say, I made a change and shaped the community to be better, better place to work, live, and to play?
I hope, and my vision is, that we would look on the West Beach and no one would be without shelter. Everyone would have a warming center, not only during the day and with certain restrictions as to when they can be there, but somewhere that they can go to anytime they feel they want to take a rest. I want to see that our senior citizens and our residents in county housing feel part of the community and that their needs have been looked upon by the mayor. I want to be the kind of mayor that people could say she was approachable, she was compassionate, and she heard us. And most of all, I want to see transportation, housing, not only people who are buying, even if you're renting a room, that you will be able to find a place to live. And I want to see the planning department treating residents in a more fair and equitable way so that we can move along with accessory apartments. We could also move around, we could look at building new properties on our on our excessive land in farmlands, that parents would be given the right to sever a portion of their land for their children. I would not feel the need that their children have to leave or have to continue living with them. We need to be proactive. We don't need the same old of planning and all that. I want to be a proactive mayor, and I want people to say, she told us and she did it.
Thank you, Angela. At this point, we now move to Olena Hankivsky with the same question. Your vision in 4 years looking back, what would you like to hold?
Well, I think I'd like to repeat some of the ideas I made in my opening statement, which is really a municipality that works for and with the community. And that for me means that there is meaningful community engagement, there's transparency, there's predictability, and better communication. I want a community with a vibrant and resilient economy. And here it is about not only attracting new businesses and industry to our community, but also sustaining and supporting the businesses that we already have in our community. I want it to be an affordable place to live, and that means that it's not only do we have enough housing and enough different kinds of housing for all the different constituents that we have, but obviously dealing first and foremost with our problem of homelessness. I'd like the community to be a model for sustainable development and climate action. I want us to have a climate action plan. I want us to declare a climate emergency. I want us to work with neighboring Indigenous communities to advance reconciliation in relation to the protection of the environment and our natural resources. I want to make sure that we protect our resources, that we see nature as our most important stakeholder. That is to protect our river, to protect our tree canopy through innovative legal actions. I also want to have an inclusive and caring community where nobody is left behind, where every neighborhood and every citizen feels a part of the community. And in this way, I'm also very committed to engaging our youth, having them part of our municipal council as a voice, and giving them the opportunity to shape our future.
Thank you, Olena. Same question over to Laurie Carr. Your vision after 4 years sitting in the seat of mayor of the municipality of Port Hope. What is your dream, Laurie, to look back and say has been achieved?
Well, I would love to feel that we have made great strides on communication and collaboration and consultation. Those are 3 areas that we really need to focus on so that our community feels fully engaged at all times. We need to be inclusive, and that has not always been the case. And we need to do a much better job of reaching out in a transparent manner and embracing our neighbors and our community at large. We need to look at our community as through the eyes of somebody who is 8 and somebody who is 80. And if we can create a community that will work for people within those ages, it will work for all of those in between. I would like to believe that our cleanup would be either complete or well on its way to completion. And at that point, we have an opportunity to brand ourselves as an environmentally sustainable community. And we can reach towards those kind of goals and aspirations. We need to work on education, especially in conjunction with our Indigenous neighbors. And we need to create an official plan that works for all. We have to work directly with the community to make sure that that happens. And lastly, I would implement a mayor's roundtable that would include members of all different areas of our community so that we can hear firsthand from our residents.
Thank you, Angela. And Jeff Lees, our last candidate to share here. Your vision in 4 years looking back, what is it you hope to achieve?
Thank you very much, Mark. Looking back on 4 years, if I was mayor, I would always like people to know that I'm very approachable. You can always come and speak to me at my office. I would have full-time hours, just like anybody else. Treat this as a full-time job, not just as an extra thing to do or something, you know, I've decided to come along and do. I treat it 8 hours a day minimum or more, getting the job done. I'd like, you know, all of our community to be inclusive for sure. There is a lot of stigma around different people, engagement, how they act in the community, you know, these things about where you live, what you drive, what's your income. To me, that really doesn't make a difference. I want to be known as I can speak with anybody. I can speak to people at $1 million table, or I can speak to a poor soul that's sitting on our bridge and try to help them out. I think, you know, people say that Port Hope hasn't done much in the last 4 years. Well, I'd like to correct them, because we went in the last 4 years, our council, we went through a stagnant time called COVID. And anybody, in my opinion, who steps up for council or runs for council surely gets my credit, and I give them all the credit in the world for stepping up. There's a lot of things I like about Port Hope. I love the community. I always hear change. People want to change. I don't want to change Port Hope. I love the way it feels. I love the way the people are. We're very diverse. We have lots of expert people in the community. I don't want to change Port Hope. I want to improve Port Hope. There's always things to fix. We're not perfect, but I would like to make it better. And that would be what I would look back if I was mayor. I'd like people to look back at me as making things better. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you all candidates for sharing your vision as we move forward in the debate. We have a next topic coming forward here, which of course is the most popular when you ask most taxpayers, and that is of course taxes. If we look at the trajectory, the track record, most are saying 1% to 2% annually is the trend. Most people would like to see something change there. I'm curious from all candidates your thoughts on your expectation and your vision for taxes moving forward as mayor of the municipality of Port Hope. And at this point, we start with Olena Hankivsky.
Taxes, always, no pun intended, the $1 million question, isn't it? I've said to people door to door when they ask me about taxes, I say, I cannot promise you that I will reduce taxes in this municipality, because that's not a realistic promise. I say that the first thing I would do is to make sure that there is 100% transparency around how the taxes are being spent. The number 2 response to that question is to say, I will look for cost efficiencies to see how the money is, not only how the money is being spent, but are we getting value for a dollar? That would be the second promise I can make. Thirdly, of course, I would look towards diversifying the tax base. And we can do that not only through bringing in more industry and business into our community, but perhaps even leveraging more of the educational sector like Loyalist College that's just come into our community. And finally, another idea I have is to really focus on grants and other opportunities to bring additional funding into our community so that we can actually provide the new services and programming that we need to moving forward without increasing the tax base. And in this regard, I have an excellent track record. I have great familiarity in the granting world, having put one of Canada's universities as #1 for receiving grants and funding, and I would love to bring that expertise to Port Hope as well.
Thank you, Olena. Moving forward with the same topic of taxes, we move over to Laurie Carr. Your thoughts on taxes over the next 4 years?
Thank you, Mark. Absolutely, it's the #1 question that I'm hearing from people when I'm going to the doors. People are asking, what can we do to make our taxes balanced? I must say that the last 4 years on council, through the work of all of the council right across the board, we have done a relatively good job of maintaining a manageable level even during the COVID years, which was certainly very difficult. I think we have to look a little more at what we are receiving back from the county. I don't feel that we always get our fair shake from the county council, and there is a large percentage of our tax bill that goes directly to the county. I would really like to be able to take a deep dive into that and find out how we can do a better job at getting our fair share. We're going to have to be in the county's ear all the time. We also need to bring in some balanced managed growth. This is all going to be done in conjunction with our official plan review, and that is coming up. That will be the roadmap for the next 10 years. So we really have a responsibility to get that right, because if we do get it right, we will be able to manage our tax base, monitor our tax base, and moderate our tax base. So I look forward to working with the community to doing that.
Thank you, Laurie. We move over to Jeff Lees to talk of the same topic, taxes over the next 4 years. Jeff, your thoughts?
Great, thank you, Mark. Again, taxes are always #1 in this community, and I'm sure in every other community in Ontario. Port Hope's taxes, I think, are relatively high. Again, you know, same with my other people that are running for mayor. I agree with them. We have to look at our spending and also what our tax increase is going to be. You know, again, I can't guarantee you, and I will not guarantee you, that your taxes will never go up. Because as we all know, nothing in the last 5 years has stayed at the same price. We all agree that. So taxes, along with everything else, is always going to go up. And if people tell you that they're not going to go up, well, I don't think they're telling you the truth. And if they don't go up, I think you're going to lose services somewhere along the line. Taxes, you know, again, are always top notch, but we also have to look at the spending part and also the revenue part. I think we have to look at, people talk about different departments that have to be improved. Well, if you really look at those departments that have to be improved, those are the places where you can make more money. So your revenue is going to go up in those departments and passing it along to the rest of the community. We have to attract new businesses, so we have to invest money. As we all know, you have to invest money to make money. And looking at new spaces for industrial and commercial property is got to be key, #1 for the community to go forward. But again, we have to do it wisely and always keep an eye out for the little guys. And in the end, there is only one taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And to finish off this particular topic, we end with Angela Grogan. Your thoughts on taxes?
Thank you, Mark. Taxes are not the problem. Most people buying houses expect to pay taxes. But the problem lies in the services that you get for the taxes you pay. And most of the time when I hear my residents and also myself speak about, we speak about the lack of garbage collection in a way that everybody can afford it. We're asking homeowners to pay excess amounts for garbage tags. These are pensioners who are on a strict budget. They are already paying high taxes in a municipality. We have to look at other contributing factors, such as the operating costs, the budgets, and also the tendering of services and contracts. We have to have a firm oversight of how our contracts are handed out and what is the cost. We have to look also at users' fees. There's a big lack of money coming into the revenue because of people not paying their fair share of users' fees, and that's a whole other conversation. We have to look at bylaws and zoning bylaws and how that affects the price of renovations, and then once the person puts an apartment on, their reassessment for taxes, and that raises their taxes. So it is a combination of impact, the municipality, the building department working with the residents. As I said, it is a complex that can be solved.
Thank you very much, each of you, to speak on a very sensitive topic of taxes, which seems to be front of mind for every taxpayer, and I'll say every voter. At this point, we have an opportunity to open the floor. Another word for debate is conversation, and I really respect all four of you for stepping up and putting your hat in the ring to run for mayor. Not an easy task, much time, much thoughtfulness, but we really want to dig into some specifics here. Each of you has shared some great details on your thoughts for taxes. We have two sitting council members here as well. From the inside and the outside of council, I'd like to offer an opportunity for all four candidates to get into some more specifics. We've had Angela share some thoughts on user fees, for example. Jeff is saying we need to spend and think wisely. Curious what that means exactly, Jeff. Laurie and Olena also shared some ideas. Can we open this up a little bit more and get into some fine details? And at this point, we'll start left to right. And Jeff, if I could ask you to go first, provide some more details to those of us watching at home.
Great, thank you, Mark. Our spending wisely, I think our tender process needs to be looked at closely. I believe that we have to change our tender process in the community. I think there should be a part in the tender process that allows for locals to take a tender more than other people. I think maybe, you can't put a dollar figure really, but I think maybe a percentage, a small percentage, but when it comes to locals, when people take tenders, I believe locals should get, better service and better, acceptance of their tender based on them being a local. If they're local, they're paying taxes, they're creating jobs, things like that. So I always believe there should be at least, maybe 5-10% difference between tenders. And I think if the person's local and a local business and they're paying into Port Hope, we should support Port Hope that way. That's one thing I would like to see changed is our tender process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We'll open it up to an open conversation here for Angela, Olena, and Laurie. Any thoughts on what Jeff has shared or something more specific from your own platform?
I'd like to start.
Yes.
Jeff, the purpose of any election is to choose leadership. In case of the two newcomers, Olena and myself, we want to hear your ideas because as we know as an incumbent, you are holding a two-sided sword. You have to be held accountable for those same tenders you just spoke about, but what you have done in the past and what you will do in the future specifically to control that part.
Back to Jeff.
Thank you. As we know, we only, when you sit on council, you have to realize you win some votes, you lose some votes. Every person that's ever sat on council, they brought things forward. And as we know, you get one vote. You're not always going to win, and you know what? You're not always going to lose. Some things will be accepted by the rest of council, and you know what? You got to be honest with yourself. We all can't get everything we want in this municipality. And you got to also accept when you're on council, you're going to make a decision that's going to make somebody unhappy. And the only thing I can do is bring a positive platform forward and go forward on a positive manner. You can't always look at what things were done before. Are we perfect? No, we're not. And are we ever going to be perfect? No, we're not. but we have to go forward and try to improve these things as a municipality, as a council, and as a council member.
Jeff, thank you for that retort. Over to Olena and Laurie for any thoughts on this topic.
We'll go in order, I guess.
Sure. Okay. Well, just following up on both of those points, I think that tenders is one issue. I'd like to see the actual contracts that are struck with our providers. Are we getting value for our money? Do we have clauses in there and adequate penalties when things are delayed? Is there a full transparency and accountability in those relationships? I think that's definitely one thing that can be improved. I also think we can think about, do we need to be spending money on all the things that we are spending money in the municipality? Can we actually be leveraging more of our community expertise into advisory groups, into bodies that can help us figure out the kinds of issues that we have to deal with? A community list of experts, I think, is what I would call for in order to reduce some of the spending. And in the same token, leveraging more of the educational sector to help us solve some of the problems and issues that we have moving forward. And that can be everything from how to bring the evidence to bear on decisions right through to, are we realizing the most efficiencies? Are we providing coordinated approaches that deal with a number of issues and services together in conjunction? And again, all of this for me has to be driven by community engagement and the development of a long-term plan that is strategic, engaged, and evidence-informed.
Thank you, Olena. And we round this one up with Sitting Council Member Laurie Carr.
Thank you, Mark. It's a complex process, and as Jeff mentioned, for people who have been involved in the process, you understand that you are one of 7 votes. And that is where I believe that communication and collaboration are so critical. We have to be able, any one of us that would be mayor, will have to be able to work collaboratively with the other 6 members of council. That is the only way to move things forward in an effective manner. Any individual may vote down, we've started talking about taxes, they may vote down and say there is no tax increases. But unless they get that buy-in from at least 3 other members of council, that won't happen. The other thing that seems to be there seems to be a bit of a misunderstanding around is what actually belongs from a governance perspective at county council and what belongs at municipal council. Garbage tags, that's the responsibility of the county. All we can do is make sure we have a better voice at the county table in order to make a change of that nature. Homelessness, it's a county issue. Yes, we can absolutely contribute by offering land and offering maybe no development charges, but we have to know where we stand.
Very good. Thank you to all candidates for sharing in an open way. Appreciate all your insights. We're going to move on to our next question here, and we'll start with Laurie Carr, given our numbering system. We want to speak about the Port Hope Area Initiative. It's a sensitive topic for many taxpayers and residents. We'd like to open the conversation into this space. And for a reminder for our viewers, in 2018, a project began that many in Port Hope did not think would ever start. We're referring, of course, to the PHAI project and remediation of lands in Port Hope. This project will forever change the area. How, as mayor, will each of you make sure that this project is done on time, properly, and that the residents' needs and interests are met? Laurie, we start with you.
Well, thank you, Mark. The PHAI has been a huge project that, as you say, started in 2018, and it's something that has typically been part of the mayor's portfolio. So individual councillors will be assigned portfolios. The mayor has typically had the portfolio of the cleanup. So the most knowledgeable person at this point in time would be our sitting mayor. There are a number of things that we need to do in order to change what is happening with the PHAI. First, we have to work in collaboration with PHAI, CNL, AECL, and CNSC to minimize damage and to actually finish the project. We need to get it done. Once we do get it done, we will have an opportunity to be a very green, sustainable community. I believe that we should be reinstating our community group who had some oversight on what was happening within the cleanup. That group has not been around for a little while, and I think it was very valuable to have it because we have so many engaged citizens with a knowledge that any individual person can't have. So reinstating the citizens group, I think, would be key to success with PHAI.
Very detailed, Laurie. Thank you for that. We move over to Mark for the same question on the Port Hope Area Initiative.
Thank you, Mark. The Port Hope Area Initiative cleanup has been a very sore spot with me for the last few years. There's many topics that come up day to day when you go out and talk to the people. The big thing is, are we ever going to get this done? And the conditions that people have to live in while they're getting their properties cleaned up. I know people, again, by going out and talking to them, that they've actually lived in a cleanup for over 3 years. That's a huge concern. I don't believe anybody should have to live while your whole yard, your decks, your garages are being taken off for up to 3 years. That's not fair. You know, yes, we get, money from the upper tier for the settlement each, but as an individual, they're not being treated fairly. They have to pay taxes the whole time they're living in that. And yes, I get it. It's great for the community because a lot of locals are working there and they're making, good money, which they deserve. But on the other hand, a lot of the products that are being brought in to fix these things aren't all local. So, I heard a case the other day where a 50-foot bush was replaced with cedars of the same caliber, but they were all from Toronto. They were all $199 a piece. It was 50 feet of cedar hedge, and each cedar was $200 a piece. That 50 feet cost the taxpayer, in general, $10,000, which is outrageous, and it wasn't purchased in Port Hope. I want to see more interaction with the people of Port Hope and have them treated more fairly. Thank you very much.
Jeff, thank you for that. Over to candidate Angela Grogan for the same question on the Port Hope Area Initiative.
The PHAI affects our residents in more ways than one. It becomes personal for a lot of them. It is affecting their emotional and their health concerns. There are many myths, doubts, and loss of value to their homes that they're experiencing. Some of them can't sell their homes during that cleanup time, which has been excessive. The problem with it is that the municipality, I believe, ignored them. CNL, CNCL, they have money to buy vacant homes around Port Hope to protect land, but yet they have not thought of compensating those residents with some tax rebates or no taxes during that period of time. So here we have real people with real problems caused by a cleanup. That's not their fault, and they're carrying that cost. Sitting council, and if it's the mayor, he should have been more aware that these people need help, and if we have money to buy houses, I'm speaking on a layman term, and leave them vacant to protect that area, that same money could have helped our residents with no taxes during that time, and it would ease some of their burdens. So when we look at it, it's becoming a sense of panic in the community. The cleanup must be completed because we can't tolerate another incomplete project within Port Hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Olena, Hankivsky, your chance to speak here about the PHAI system.
Yes, thank you. Well, my colleagues have certainly covered a lot of territory, but I think it comes down to two things from my perspective. One is, again, the ongoing problem of a lack of transparency around how The municipality makes decisions how it works, and in this instance, the kind of management structure that's in place between the team at the municipality of Port Hope and CNL, and how these kinds of projects are undertaken. So the lack of transparency is key. Number two, the lack of communication. Folks want to know, where are the different projects across Port Hope in terms of timelines? What has been completed? Why does there seem to be such unevenness about people's homes being disrupted for such a long time versus decisions to clear cut lines, park trees, and other parts of our, that really affect our natural resources? So I think folks want to have more transparency, better communication. They want to know that this project has an end date. How can we expect milestones? Can we in fact push for any kind of penalties if the work isn't done in time? And moving forward, are the decisions around any future cleanup, are they informed by the best and the most current evidence, so that we don't clean up more than we need to, but that we do clean up that which will make us a safe and environmentally sound Port Hope?
Thank you, Olena. We're edging closer to our first break and only break. I do want to open the floor again for another bit of conversational time, an opportunity for candidates perhaps to select something of their colleagues that have shared something of their platform they'd like to respond to, or an open debate. I do find what's most useful is to select one candidate to speak and then open up from there. So Angela, if it's comfortable, I'll start with you. Anything that your colleagues have shared you want to speak to at this point? We've talked about transparency, community council. It's a very sensitive topic. What are your thoughts on what's been shared so far today?
Well, my thoughts of what's being shared is that when we stand here seeking elections, we can say anything, make any promises we want. When we have been in council for many years and you don't have a track record that you can bring forward to say, I've done this, this, and this, based on the number of years you've been in council, then I think the people of Port Hope need to use some fresh ideas, fresh eyes, and move away from the status quo. They always say what you've done in the past is very predictable of what you'll bring forth. We could only give what we've got. And if the two incumbents are standing here today saying, this is this person's fault, this should have happened, we don't want any more of that. So I'm asking them to give specifics so that the people of Port Hope can make their choice.
I believe we have an open floor. Jeff.
I'd like to speak about that. Like we said, you are only one vote, and we certainly haven't been stagnant. Port Hope hasn't been stagnant in the last 4 years. Like I said, every council has done the best job they possibly can, and every member of council in the past history has done the best they can. We go forward, we always go forward. You can't change the past. And like I said, we haven't been stagnant. We've had a lot of major projects. We've had a new brewery during this 4 years. We had the Hampton Hotel built. We had some safety walks put in. We had a new splash put in for the children. We've got a huge Walton Street reconstruction. We also have a new senior center that's being built. So again, I don't think this council or other councils have always been stagnant. I think they've worked very well together, and it's not all about the one person. It's about working with a team and being a team leader. It's not a dictatorship. As a leader, you have to be a leader and not a dictatorship. And again, we haven't been stagnant, and neither has any other council that I've ever worked on. There's always been major projects and major things accomplished during that time. People always talk about change. That's every election I hear, change, change, change. But if you look at Port Hope has changed. It's changed slowly, but I think it's changed for the better and for the future. Like I said, we can't change the past. Some people dwell on the past a lot. They have to get over that. You have to move on and do what's best for Port Hope in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And as we inch again towards break, an opportunity for Olena and Laurie to speak of what's been shared so far. Laurie, over to you.
I actually think that question that was posed by Angela shows a lack of understanding of the process. The process is a group. The process is working together collaboratively and as a team, as Jeff mentioned, in order to move things forward. There has been a number, as Jeff also mentioned, of projects that have been completed and some that are in process that have been absolutely to the benefit of the residents of Port Hope. And if there are projects like the PHAI cleanup, for example, that has maybe not progressed to the level that we would have hoped, that is being worked on. You have to understand the whole process. You also have to understand what work belongs to staff and what work belongs to council. There's often a big misunderstanding on that. And, decisions around governance, yes, those are things that are being done by council, but policy writing is for staff. Decisions around land use is for council, but grant writing is for staff. The lines have been blurred over the last few years, and I totally believe that it's time to redefine them.
Laurie, thank you for that. And I'll say, take us out, Olena, to finish up on this topic.
I'd like to talk a little bit about council and collaboration and how to get people to work together in a way that is productive and innovative and actually benefits the community. One of the first things I would propose to do with a newly elected council before they're sworn in is to have an organizational leadership retreat where we actually talk about what does it mean to collaborate? What does it mean to work together? How do we set the rules of reference of how that happens? How do we resolve conflict? How do we prioritize the issues that got us elected in the first place? Do team building, because that is essential first step to knowing how to do respectful and collaborative work. Council does have the ability to discuss what is working and not, whether or not procedural bylaws actually help or hinder their decision making. Council can change bylaws and policies by which Port Hope is governed, including procedures and processes for running council meetings. So my question would be to the council, what assessment of the governance model has been undertaken by the last council? Is there something we can change? For example, building together community roundtables that are embedded into our meetings, question periods after each portfolio, and within 30 days reviewing the operational and capital budget. And finally, I just want to say that experience can be varied, and just because you've been in council doesn't mean you're going to make a good mayor. We have dozens of examples of mayors across this country, Toronto and Vancouver, who have never been on council.
Olena, for that, thank you very much. And all candidates, thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights on these topics so far. At this point, we will take a break. You're watching Your Vote, Your TV's extensive coverage of the 2022 municipal election. I'm Mark Johnston, your host, and I'll see you in a few moments. Thank you for joining us. This is Your Vote, Your TV's extensive coverage of the 2022 municipal election. I'm Mark Johnston, your host for this mayoral debate for the municipality of Port Hope. We have Jeff Lees, Angela Grogan, Olena Hankivsky, and Laurie Carr as our candidates. All four humans here stepping up with what they believe will make a better Port Hope moving forward. We thank you again, candidates, for joining us today and sharing your insights. We're going to move forward with more question period, and at this point we're rounding back to the beginning and starting with Jeff Lees, sitting council member who is running for mayor of Port Hope. And we want to speak about, as I like to say, on one hand holding history and heritage, on the other moving forward as a growing community. Jeff, your thoughts on holding space for what's been in the municipality of Port Hope, both rural and urban, and also moving forward to a brighter future. How do you manage both?
Well, Mark, you know, as you know, Port Hope has one of the most beautiful downtown heritage districts. And it is difficult sometimes. You know, people want to do improvements to their homes that would change the look and the feel of heritage in Port Hope. We have a great volunteer committee, HPH. They do a lot of work on behalf of the municipality all the time. And those are one of many groups that do volunteer work for keeping heritage in Port Hope and being able to use it and make our community better. It's all part of the balancing act. We also have a great ACO group. Again, they do outstanding work. They fundraise locally. They take that money and put it back into heritage. What more could you ask from a group of volunteers? Again, we're very lucky to have them. We're very lucky to have the people that are out there working for heritage in Port Hope, because we all know Port Hope is well known for heritage, 200 plus heritage homes, beautiful downtown. That attracts thousands of people a year to Port Hope, and I'm sure glad we have them. And again, it is a balancing act. You have to, you know, be mindful of day-to-day stuff, but you also have to be mindful to keep our heritage and keep it strong in Port Hope. And that's what I will do if I'm elected as mayor.
Jeff, thank you for that. We move over to Angela Grogan. Same question, Angela. Looking back at the history of the area of Port Hope and looking forward at the future, what are your plans?
My plans for the history of Port Hope is that we want to protect it. We want to maintain it. It is what attracted me and many others to Port Hope. We have a dedicated group of caretakers in various associations and committees that help us do that. The future of Port Hope, however, must make room for new and diverse and multi-generational people. It must include spaces in language, in how we defined who is a Port Hopian and who is a newcomer. We must embrace inclusive language, actions, and opportunities for the future. Without that, we're going to become stagnant. And not only that, we're going to have residents who feel marginalized, who feel that they cannot contribute. We have excellent, brilliant minds coming out of all parts, not only the Toronto area that is typically referred to, but all parts of Canada, and calling Port Hope home. Let us embrace them. Let's educate them on the traditions and the respect that is deserving for the historical and traditional part. And let us not forget our first settlers, the Indigenous people. Let's go to them and bring them into our circle. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Over to you, Olena Hankivsky, next one to speak.
Thank you. Well, certainly heritage and agriculture is a key brand of our community. So preserving the heritage of Port Hope, and I proposed as part of my platform actually seeking UNESCO World Heritage Site designation for key buildings in our core downtown is actually a real priority for me. But I also imagine the future of Port Hope based on the fundamental transitions that are happening in agriculture, and I want to make sure that we stay on top of that kind of change and growth, whether it's through artificial intelligence and smart machines to help farmers become more productive and competitive. Even vertical farming might be something to explore. We need to make sure we've got the internet capacity to deliver on this kind of vision, to work with Loyalist College to deliver the jobs of tomorrow, because more jobs and more industry will help the economy of Port Hope. And I also think that future growth opportunities lie with what we're going to do with remediated lands and how they can be best used moving into the future. And then finally, I just want to say that a very important question is, who should be included in Port Hope in terms of that kind of future vision. Port Hope needs to be inclusive of those that represent the past and represent the future. We need more youth engagement, we need to have more engagement with all citizens, and we need to not think of the preservation and the future as zero-sum games. We can preserve, we can protect, we can celebrate, and we can be very future-looking at the same time.
Great. Thank you, Olena. Over to Laurie Carr to speak on the same topic.
Thank you, Mark. I believe our community identity is all rolled into this. We are an agricultural community. We do have a robust heritage downtown, and we have a thriving business sector. And that is who we are. And we have to keep reminding ourselves and reminding others as to who we are. We need to protect our natural and built heritage. It is imperative that we stop allowing trees to be cut down and protect those buildings that are heritage buildings that just need a little TLC. As Jeff mentioned, with our community groups like ACO and Heritage Port Hope, we have a lot of support from really, really talented minds who can direct us and offer us vision as to how we can do this. Heritage is one of the #1 economic drivers for Port Hope. And we've talked earlier about taxes, and we need to make sure that we keep these economic drivers in place because those are the ways that we balance taxes. We're working on our official plan, and we need balanced managed growth. And in doing that, we will be able to move forward without any damage to our heritage, our natural heritage, and our built heritage. We must keep them intact.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you all candidates for sharing on this topic. We move forward with our next question, which is a very key area for most that are concerned, not only taxes, the Port Hope Area Initiative, but the topic of job creation. I know the economy has been challenging. We've come through quite a bit through COVID. How are each of you as candidates thinking in terms of job creation in the Port Hope area? We have obviously the challenge of inviting those that have gone away to university and college and how to get them back to their hometowns and be part of the community, but also attracting businesses to the area of Port Hope to create jobs. So the overall question of job creation, open to your thoughts as candidates. And Angela, we start with you on this topic.
Thank you. That's a great question. I believe that it starts with people first. Any economy needs people. And how do we get people to come to Port Hope? We need housing, which we're limited on. We need to increase our housing stock. We need to be mindful of how our young people are viewing their social lives, because young people at a certain age frame everything around how they're socialized, whether or not they're working. We need to attract professionals and provide services for them that when they're here, they can put roots down. And those services going to include daycares with extended hours, caregivers, because most professionals take care of their parents like I had to do with my parents. But I would want to know there's a center that I can take my parents to if I have to go to work, and it would, be there for them in a safe place. We also have to look very closely of, extending opportunities for walk-in clinics to come, doctors to want to come. We have to partnership with other resources and other professionals and other agencies. We cannot continue in the vacuum we've been in. And most of all, we have to nurture everyone who calls Port Hope home to want to stay. Even if they go away, they want to come back to work. We're not just one person or one thing. We're a multitude of facets that's going to help that sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Olena, over to you. Same topic of job creation.
Well, for me, it's a really multi-pronged challenge. I think it has to start with a very strong message out of our economic development plan and even our marketing folks that people and industry are welcome in Port Hope. The question that we should also ask anybody who comes to us with a new idea is, how can we help you? And how can we take your idea to fruition? But how can we help you can't happen until people actually think Port Hope is a good place to come, a good place to invest in. And as has been mentioned, we need to have housing, we need to have access to health care and public health initiatives, we need to have strong high schools, we need to have childcare, we need to have supports for aging in place and long-term care. This is what makes communities attractive to businesses. This is what makes a community attractive for an industry to come in and to invest. And we need to have our youth very much involved in the future planning of our community. They need to tell us, what would it take for you to come back to this community after you finish school? What would it take for you to settle here and see a future? But again, it's all about making it attractive, and when people do come, to say, how can we help you succeed in our community and contribute to the economic resilience of our community?
Thank you, Olena. Over to Laurie Carr to finish us off on this topic of job creation.
Thank you, Mark. As the other folks here have mentioned, housing, healthcare, education, all of those things are absolutely critical to job creation. Having post-secondary education now coming to Port Hope next year is absolutely a win for the community and something that I look forward to working more with. From a day-to-day perspective, I walk the walk. I don't just talk the talk. I have 3 businesses thriving in Port Hope. I employ your children, your neighbors, your friends. Our companies offer apprenticeships to allow our students and our youth to gain further understanding and get an apprenticeship into something that they're passionate about, whether they want to be a graphic designer or whether they want to become a Red Seal chef. And we are doing this on a day-to-day basis in Port Hope. And there are many, many, many other businesses that are doing the same thing. This is why I continue to go back to our official plan, because our official plan is that blueprint that is going to allow us to build. We also need to make sure that jobs and job creation are a pillar of our strategic plan. And as I said, we all need to walk the walk.
Thank you very much for that, Laurie. Jeff, any thoughts from you in terms of job creation?
Thank you very much, Mark. Job creation is a multi-level situation. We have to start looking at what we have to offer companies, because companies, before they come to any community, they do the research. They want to see what the local labor force is. We have to try to improve that, because we all know all across Ontario, there's a labor shortage everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's a labor shortage. Every place you work with, where you attend work, where you go to work, there's a labor shortage. We have to fix that. We have to get more people out working, more people that want to go to work every day. I think this COVID's really put a damper on all that. Things have changed a lot since COVID. We have to change that. We have to look in Port Hope. We have to look at, there's a lot of empty lots, empty spaces. Maybe we have to rezone those spaces and get them more favorable companies to come here. And when companies come here, make them feel like they're welcome. You know, show interest. We used to have a program where the mayor would go visit local businesses And at least the mayor and council would see these local businesses, and the businesses would care that the mayor and council care about these local businesses. We have to continue programs like that. I think they're great. And again, we have to support our locals. That's my big thing. Support the locals, get more businesses in here. And again, you have to invest money to make money. And I think that's a primary asset of anything. And again, if zoning's not proper, we can change zoning so we get these businesses in here and make sure they're a proper fit for the community to have that business in our community and welcome them with open arms. Thank you.
Jeff, thank you. And all candidates, thank you for sharing on this topic. Quite a well-rounded table here so far for our viewers. We want to move to another topic, which would be the Wesleyville lands. In this area, to share with our viewers some factoids here, that one of the major moves in the last council was brokering a deal with the Ontario government to purchase the Wesleyville lands to the tune of $18.6 million, as a deal would have seen Port Hope buy more than 1,300 acres of land. As we know, at the last minute, the Ontario government canceled this deal. So as mayor, and we'll start with Olena for this question, as mayor, Olena, would you try to resurrect this deal, try and recoup some of the money that has been spent on the project to this point? And do you think the residents should have been more informed about the Wesleyville project?
Yes, absolutely. I think they should have been more informed. I think that one of the conversations that I have often door to door is people ask me, what do you know about Wesleyville? Do you really know what happened? Do you really know why the deal was in fact canceled? And why didn't we know more about the process and the negotiations and the spending? And I think, again, that brings us back to accountability and transparency and communication. I'm very much in favor of resurrecting a Wesleyville future project, because I think it's important that Port Hope be part of that planning, part of the heritage preservation that's there, a very strong advocate for protecting the environmental lands that are there. I think Wesleyville is a very exciting opportunity to connect the waterfront from that area right downtown to Port Hope. I think it can contribute to our tax base in a very productive way. And I think it's also an important opportunity for us to explore some affordable housing options in that area. But again, I think that that's going to take a strong leader and a strong council working, advocating, and leveraging with the province moving forward on that.
Great, Olena, thank you so much. Laurie, over to you, sitting council member. Curious your thoughts about how things happened, and as mayor, moving into the next 4 years, what are your thoughts on the future of a potential project at the Wesleyville lands?
I was and continue to be very supportive of the Wesleyville project. One of the main parts of my platform is to establish a municipal services corporation for economic development. And what that is an arm's length corporation, 100% owned by the municipality, responsible to report back to council, responsible to report back to the community. There is no concern about losing any ground here. There is only opportunity. That municipal services corporation would be seated with local residents of Port Hope who are experts in various different fields that would enable us to put together an on-point proposal for the Wesleyville lands. We need to be able to provide the province with a proposal that is costed, that is timed, and that provides them with the information of exactly how we intend to protect the environmentally protected lands that are there, how we intend to use the industrial lands are there, and how we intend to use the residentially zoned areas that are there. I have spoken with our MPP about this and asked him if we would have any opportunity of moving this forward if we were able to provide them with such a proposal, and he has told me that we can. So I feel very confident that we can move this forward with the right proposal.
Thank you, Laurie, for that. 2 candidates to go. Jeff Lees, curious your thoughts here on the Wesleyville lines.
Thank you, Mark. Wesleyville originally was brought to council by the upper tier. It was supported by the upper tier when they brought it. The first thing I asked during the process was, is this process right? That we're not going to the people first and asking them what they think. I was told yes, because as we know, every time a realtor or anybody else finds somebody that has deep pockets, the price always goes up. It was an incredible deal. It would have been the best thing for Port Hope to go into the future, in my opinion, for industrial property. It would give us more options, more things to do in the future with that property. Everything was there that we needed. You know, there was 700 industrial acres that we could use. And people forget, there's already 7 or 8 businesses already out there with lease agreements that are paying money into it. That was very pro, in my opinion, to go forward with this project. You know, we've already got people in there. And the nice thing was the people of Port Hope would have been able to control what happens out there. Save the woodland, save the forest, save the farmland that's out there. Now that the way it's turned out, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think a big developer, I think, is going to move in there. And I honestly think that they, quite honestly, don't care about woodlands. They don't care about farmland. It's all about development. And this is another one of those things where, you know, you get big corporations and the big guys at the top don't know what the little guys at the bottom are doing. And I think this was a prime example with the PC government. Mr. Ford didn't know what was going on. When it was brought out to the public, suddenly a lot of these people were saying, wow, that's a great deal. How come you guys are getting such a great deal? I think that was the problem. The big guy up top didn't know what the little guy down below. And all these things that were requested where we lost money was requested by their realty board. We did everything they asked for. And that's where we lost our money. And I'm very concerned.
Jeff, thank you for that. To round this one up, Angela, your thoughts on the Wesleyville lands?
Well, I've been listening attentively, because everything I'm hearing here is the first time I am, as a resident, is hearing. What I know for sure as a realtor, that deals that are made firm are seldom able to be broken. This was a secret deal, lacking transparency and disclosure to us, the residents who are paying the taxes. There is a sense of lack of accountability. We have been left wondering, and this is the first time we're hearing this much detail. What I have some questions for it. I want to know if there were any conditions that allowed that deal to fall. Were the treaties respected that are associated with the land? And no, I will not go after that, because that's an additional debt that will be putting on to the taxpayers. We cannot speculate on leases to pay a mortgage. It is a risky thing to do. We understand that there might have been some conditions in it, and also the costs now to recover is going to incur legal costs. It's not just getting the land back and losing money. We now have to get lawyers who are very expensive to go to the government and negotiate, and all that's going to trickle down to the taxpayer. We must not allow this deal to be resurrected. It is a money-losing deal, and if it was so good, it would have been sold for $18 million. As a realtor, that's my view.
Angela, thank you for that. Quite a diverse set of opinions from everyone here as mayoral candidates for the municipality of Port Hope. We appreciate that. I'd say over the next 2 minutes, an opportunity just to exchange on this topic. Each of the 4 candidates have shared their thoughts on this particular area of interest. Would you all like to share either what your colleagues have provided, a bit of back and forth? I will say we have just under 2 minutes, so maybe 30 seconds each before we do our closing statements. Laurie, how about you?
I will start, and that is why I propose a municipal services corporation, because that does not entail lawyers that are going to cost the taxpayers money. It would be a way to put together a proposal that potentially could be approved by the province. And remember, municipalities by law are corporations set up by the province. We are creatures of the province.
Thank you, Laurie. To other candidates, anything else to share on this topic, Jeff? You.
Along that line, people have to remember, municipality is at the lowest tier. We have the county, the provincial, and the federal. When the upper tiers pass laws, pass things down to us, we have to follow them. So when they bring a deal such as this to us, and they're in favor of it, and they pat you on the shoulder to go ahead, we're with you. Their own realty board told us, what they wanted to see from us. That's how we went forward with this deal. We were all caught off guard big time at the very last minute. I don't think that's right.
All right, Jeff, thank you. Olena or Angela to go first.
I said my piece on it, and I stand firm.
Angela, thank you for that.
Thank
Olena?
you.
Well, I think it's like anything in politics is if you don't succeed the first time, there's always a second go at it. And I think that we do have an opportunity with a new leadership and new council. I've also had the opportunity to speak to the MPP about this. And as I understand it, there will be an opportunity in the future with new leadership and looking at exactly the terms of reference may change from the province in terms of their expectations and what they'd like to see. And I think we need to be prepared for that. We need to be flexible in relation to that. And there may be some options that we haven't even thought about and processes that we'll need to follow.
Thank you for that, each of you, for sharing openly about other candidates sharing as well. At this point, it brings us to the closing statements for each candidate for mayor for the municipality of Port Hope. We have just under 2 minutes each for our candidates here to share. I want to start from reverse. We started with Jeff Lees at the top. We're going to start at this end, Laurie Carr, and move around the table from there. Your closing statement.
Well, thank you again, Mark. To the people of Port Hope, let me say this. As mayor, I will speak my mind, but always I will speak to you from the heart. I am authentic. As mayor, I am ready to serve from day one. We need experience in the mayor's chair since there will be at least 2 new councillors, and you will decide if there will be more. And we need new thinking all around. And I can help you get the best out of all 3. Like you, I am pleased to see new people stepping forward to seek elective office. But there will be no time in the next term of council for a mayor with a steep learning curve. Too much will be facing us, and all of it expensive. All of it needing a trained eye. It's all about actions. My actions have demonstrated that I am totally invested in our community, and actions speak louder than words. This is not a stepping stone for me. I am committed to you, my neighbors, my community, our Port Hope. From day one, we need a vision, experience, and trust in the mayor's chair. I offer all 3, and I am ready now. Thank you.
Laurie Carr, thank you very much. Over to Olena Hankivsky to share your closing statement.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to start by saying that we need to rethink what counts as experience to hold political office at the municipal level. I have a toolkit that consists of being a small business owner in the community. I have a toolkit that consists of being a community activist. In 6 weeks' time, I was able to harness 150 volunteers from across both wards in our community to bring in 31 Ukrainian refugee families and assist them with everything from housing to transportation to labor and employment, education, and to make them fall in love with Port Hope the way that I have. I also come to the job as an experienced caregiver in the community, knowing the challenges, which also leads me to understand the challenges of care across the life course in our community. Finally, I come from an experience of having led at the executive level large organizations of 300 people, multi-million-dollar budgets. I'm also trained as a political scientist, which means I actually teach people how to go into municipal politics. I understand jurisdictional responsibilities between all different levels of government. And most importantly, I understand how municipal politics is changing, where we need to leverage, advocate, and collaborate with the province and even the federal government. We are in a new era. And I want to start by asking, why do we do things this way here? Where are we going? I offer experience. I will not have a sharp learning curve. Large organizations bring in new leaders from the outside for a reason, and I offer hope and inspiration and a new path for the future.
Olena Hankivsky, thank you very much for that. Over to Angela Grogan, our mayoral candidate for Port Hope.
Thank you. To the people of Port Hope, between October 14th and the 24th, your voice will be heard. I want you to take a couple points to ponder. Do you want the same old, or are you ready to take on the responsibility to select a mayor like myself, someone who's a strong voice, someone who has leadership qualities and has proven them in personal businesses, community work, and also help among my neighbors? I have no personal agenda. My focus is to ensure that Port Hope continues to grow in a business, personal, and productive manner that all residents will see the benefit. We are a unique community, both rural and urban, and the needs of each of us differ on the surface. But I believe all of us in Port Hope share the same desire for a safe place to raise our families, to build our businesses, and to be stronger. Inclusion of all people is my vision. Equity for all is going to be the result. I will advocate at all levels of government to ensure that Port Hope is allocated funding grants that are offered through all levels of government. We do not have to be afraid to take the fresh eyes. I am your new leader. I ask you on October 14th, select Grogan on the ballot. Thank you.
Angela Grogan, thank you for that. And we wrap up with Jeff Lees, our mayoral candidate for the municipality of Port Hope. Your closing statement.
Thank you, Mark. As you know, I've always been active in Port Hope. I will continue to be active as mayor, and I will encourage our council to be active. In my opinion, it's not about meetings, it's not about photo ops. It's being out, meeting with the people, talking to the people, going in different groups and getting input from all kinds of different groups. No group, in my opinion, has more say than anybody else in Port Hope. I treat everybody equal, like I hope they treat me. I've always done that. I've been out. I have no business. I have no hidden agenda. I don't have an axe to grind, and I'm not mad at anybody. I just want to make Port Hope a better place to live. And also, I think it's time. There is a silent majority of people out there. I think they don't come up. They're not always forward. They're not always looking to have their voice heard. But I think it's time the silent majority spoke up and voted for a person they can trust and know, and who has experience, dedication, and has a common sense approach to being the mayor of Port Hope. And honestly, I think I'm the man for the job, or the person for the job. Again, we're all equal in my world, and I like to treat people that way. So on October 14th to the 24th, please elect Jeff Lees as your mayor. And please, I beg you all, come out and vote. We have a lot of great people running. I encourage everyone. I'd like to see the number for voters up this time, way up, and that will show people that we're all interested in this community. And I cheer them. Please, again, please come out and vote. Make Port Hope great, and we will all make it great together. Thank you.
Jeff Lees, thank you very much for that. To all our candidates, as we wind down this experience for our viewers to understand the concept of behind the ballot, as we say, a great journey, and each of you has shared from the heart and very well spoken. I want to thank Laurie, Olena, Angela, and Jeff for being with us today. Thank you very much for all you've shared. A little bit of housekeeping. Just a reminder to everyone, you can start voting in the municipality of Port Hope on October the 14th at 10 a.m. and up until 8 p.m. on October the 24th. There will be 2 help centers set up, just so that you're aware in the municipality. One is in Town Hall at 56 Queen Street, of course. The other is set up at the Port Hope Community Hub at 5325 County Road 10. Please also visit porthope.ca if you need any other assistance for the dates and times as well that these help centers will be open. You can also call 905-885-4544 extension 0 at any time for support. You've been watching Your Vote, Your TV's extensive coverage of the 2022 municipal election. It's been an honor to be your host. My name is Mark Johnston, and thank you for joining us.